I'm going to be honest. When I started my car rental business back in 2021, I did not think it was going to work. But today, I am no longer an employee and I am completely free of the 95 at 26 years old. In this video, I'm going to talk about how I escaped the 9 to 5 before 30. So without any further delay, let's talk about it. So back in 2021, I used to work for a corporate company called New Horizons Computer Learning Center. Okay. I believe the company got sold and it's now called Educate 360. You can look this up. This is real information. Now, when I was at this job, this was one of the dream jobs I had. Okay. Previously, before this job, back in 2019, I was working at Home Depot, basically picking up lumber, right, and helping people put them in their cars. All right. So it was a long way from where I had initially begun. Okay. Home Depot was one of my first jobs. And when I was at Home Depot, I realized very quickly that this isn't the kind of place that I want to be. And there's nothing wrong with working at Home Depot. However, when I was there, I was among people who have been working at that specific job, right, for 10, 15 years. And for me, I thought that was absolutely insane. I thought that was the definition of insanity. I was at that place for about 6 months and I decided to move on very quickly. The next job that I held, I was working as basically a sales rep for for State Farm Insurance Company. Okay, so at State Farm, my job was to sell property and casualty insurance. All right, property and casualty insurance is the fancy term for home and auto insurance. All right, that was my primary job. So I became really good at understanding the products. I became really good at understanding home insurance, and I became really good at understanding auto insurance. Okay, I knew all the ins and outs. I was a good sales rep. I was one of the best at my office, right? And I was killing it. However, I realized again very quickly that this isn't something that I want to do forever. All right. And as I was building my career, this job actually did help me break into tech because it taught me all the soft skills. It taught me the sales skills and it also taught me the desktop skills, right? I had to basically, manage an opportunity pipeline and things like that. So it taught me all of the desktop skills and software skills to basically help me break into tech. I, I ended up breaking into tech and working in operations where I worked for a couple of companies, right, in the course of a year. One of them was it was an IT global distribution company, and the other one was an IT training company. Okay. The IT training company was a fully work from home job. All right. At this job, I had basically all the benefits I could ever want in a job. I had work from home, I had unlimited PTO, right? I had insurance, health, life, dental. I had all of that. And it still wasn't enough for me. And again, when I was there were people that had been at the company for 10 and 15 years. And I realized very quickly this isn't where I want to be. The reason why I am telling this backstory is that a lot of people will set their mind on something that they want, right? It could be a job, it could be a house, it could be a spouse. They get it and then they stop there. But it is absolutely detrimental to stop. Once you stop, you're no longer making progress and you're no longer becoming better as a person. The evolution of the individual is always continuous. You should never ever stop, regardless of if you end up getting what you want. Now, I was at this company for about a year and a half, and the company ended up getting sold and taken over by another company called Educate 360. At this point, the company let all of us go, right? Especially at the operations team, because Educate 360 had their own operations team. Now, luckily for me, I was building something during my time there because I didn't want to stop. Now, unluckily for some of my coworkers, they weren't building anything. So now their livelihood is at stake. Okay? By the time Educate 360 took over the company I was working for, I had 4 cars in my fleet. All right? This was at the end of 2022. I had already built 4 cars in my fleet. And I I was eternally grateful that I always plan and think ahead. Um, and this kind of thinking is what ended up helping me escape my 9 to 5. However, I did hit a pretty heavy roadblock. So early on in 2023, I ended up losing my job at the end of 2022 and losing two cars, right? One's engine completely blew out, right? That I had just bought because I didn't do my due diligence. And then the other car basically, was completely total, which I ended up getting paid out for. However, during the process, it was a long process. I was without a job, I was without an income, I was without savings because I am the type of person that didn't believe in savings at the time because I put everything into trying to make all money at once and spending it to make more money. That's the way my mind works. So a lot of people, like the comfort of having, a few tens of thousands in the bank account. I don't like the idea of just holding a bunch of money in the bank account, but that's a whole different story. Now, I was able to self-sustain myself during that period until I got a job at GE Healthcare. Once I got a job at GE Healthcare, I had income again and I was able to regroup and I did not stop, right? A lot of people would stop there and quit their business. I decided, no, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to continue. So I regrouped and I ended up picking up more cars and continuing my car rental business. A year later, so I joined GE Healthcare in April of 2021. April of 2024. I want to say April of 2023, maybe 2023, 2024. Anyway, I can't remember. I was at GE Healthcare for about a year. Once I got to GE Healthcare in April, um, I was able to regroup and pick up more cars, and I continued to build again. This time, I built way more aggressively. This time, I built knowing that I had the possibility of losing my job. Okay, I built my car rental business like I was gonna lose my job. Okay, and then by the time I realized a year later, I blink and I am making almost 3 times from my car rental business what I am making for my job. Now, GE Healthcare isn't a small company. This is a IT healthcare giant. This is $1 billion international corporation, and I was working in operations at that company. Okay, I had all the benefits. I was working from home. However, it still wasn't enough for me. Okay, it just wasn't enough. And the reason why I'm telling this story is because if you want to escape your 9 to 5, there has to be that insatiable appetite for more. It cannot be enough. If you feel comfortable and you feel like it's enough, you are never going to be able to escape it. And that's completely fine, right? Not everybody is built for this entrepreneurial life. A lot of people want to work their job and have an extra side income, and that is perfectly okay. However, if you are like me and you want to escape the 9 to 5, you need that insatiable appetite for more, and then you need that aggressive action. Okay, the reason why I was able to do this I did it actually by the time I was 25 years old. Um, the reason why I was able to do that is because I had this insatiable appetite coupled with the aggressive action. And I built my business like my life depended on it because literally my life depends on it today. And I am perfectly comfortable, right, with the depending on my business because I built it in the right way. And I am absolutely 100% accountable for anything that happens, right? If I lose my livelihood today, it's because I made a series of mistakes in my business that lost me income. All right. So hopefully my life story, right, of how I escaped the 9 to 5 helps somebody out there who's looking to escape, because the 9 to 5 is, for me, not the life I want. It's a life of following instructions. It's a lack of freedom. It's a lack of free thinking. It's a lack of free will. Um, there are certain things you cannot say and certain things you cannot do because you can literally lose your livelihood. And for me, that is not a life that I believe is worth living. So if you want to escape your 9 to 5 and build your car rental business, I'm helping people make 10K a month in the car rental business, right? And I'll personally teach you it myself. But you have to join my Facebook community because I only do this for my Facebook community members. Okay, so click the link in the description or use the link in the bio to join the Facebook group, and I'll see you on the inside.